All right, welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. Let's take a look at the cash index and also the future for the S&P 500 and also the ETF, along with the future and the ETF for the NASDAQ. Now, before I proceed, I just want to let you know that I did post another weekly analysis, my market weekly analysis on my Substack newsletter, the Pulse of the Market, that provide a broader context of the market, basically looking at the sentiment and also the internal. So be sure to go and check that out after you finish watching this video. So here looking at the S&P 500, it ended the month of June way above this monthly expected move here. And also in addition to that, it also ended the week above the weekly upper range. So here's what we are looking at for the coming month. Here's what the market is pricing in for the monthly expected move in July. The low range is between 6,089.70 and 5,980, and the upper range is between 6,485 and 6,469. So as you can see that it is pricing in a higher high, but also we're pricing in a little bit of a pullback, that the possibility of coming back down to the 6,100 level. So now it is in a all-time high territory, so it's kind of difficult to find some historical level for us to look for potential resistance. So what I usually do in a case like this is I basically use looking for the symmetry move. So basically looking at the symmetry move here, and you can see that there's a symmetry move and went up to 100% or the 1x of the symmetry. And also we're looking at this 127 and the 141. Now that is happened to be the weekly expected range. And if I put in the weekly expected range for the coming week, we could see that the market is pricing in a upper range of somewhere around 63.68 and also 63.55. That's the upper range, and the lower range is between 6190.10 and 6125. So you can see that right here, it is coming up, to the possibility of 141 extension on the upper range, and then coming down to the lower range of the expected move down here at this 6200 area, 6125, 6190. So for the coming week, we could be look for the possibility of maybe a little bit of a pullback, coming back into the 6100, 6200 level and chop around and then pushes back up into a new high territory. Or if it's continue to push up into a new high territory, then I expect to look for resistance up here at the upper range level, somewhere around that 64 area, 63, 68, and then pushes back down into the 62, 6100 area to test for support. And here we are looking at the ES, the E-mini S&P 500. You can see that last week it closed above the upper range here. And right now we're basically looking at what the market is pricing in for the coming week to be up here at this 63.90, 63.85 and 63.73 area. And the low range is somewhere between 61.91.5 and 61.45. Now for the month of July, the E-mini S&P 500 is actually pricing in somewhere up at the 6,500 level, and the upper range is between 6,500 and 6,476.75, and the lower range is between 6,090.25 and 5,980. So again, it's basically coming back down to this 6,100 area. So for the coming week, we basically are looking for a little bit of a pullback, and if that's the case, then we're basically looking for a pullback somewhere down to the lower range of the expected move for the week, and that would be somewhere around this 6,200 level. Now, if we continue to push up, we're basically looking for potential resistance up here near the 6,400. So we are looking for something like this coming up and possibly pushes back down, and then maybe chop around here and find some support and then make another leg up. The other thing is that we might just come down here and find some support and then pushes back up to the 6,400 area. Now, if we take a look at the composite volume profile here, you see that I did update this right here to include the most recent prices, and you see the point of control is still down here somewhere around the 6100, and we do still have this low volume zone down here near the 6200, and here we see that there is a little bit of a pull high here from this auction from last week, so we could see a little bit more of a push up into the 6400 before we get a little bit, pulling back into the 6200. But in the near term, I think the market is ready for a little bit of a pullback. And if that's the case, any kind of pullback, I'd be watching this 6200 area for potential support. And look at the SPY here. We see that the SPY closed also above the last week upper range here. And notice that there is a high volume node here. So that's an indication that there are some acceptances up here at this high level. So we could see the price to move a little bit higher. And here's what the market is pricing in for the coming week. So the market is actually pricing in a upper range between 635 and 634, and the low range 616.70 and 613. In addition to that, we also notice that the July monthly range up here at the upper range is 647.86 and 644.20, and the lower range is 606.50 and 598. Now the other thing is also we put in this extension here, this symmetry move over here, the symmetry move here, and we do have a 1272 here up at 629 area, and look at the 141. The 141 is actually in confluence with the upper range of the weekly expected move. So for the coming week, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a push up into the upper range and then come back down to the 616 area, basically get to the 620, this low volume zone here, and come down into this low volume zone somewhere around the 613 area to see would be able to find support from the lower range of the expected move on the weekly basis and then push back up to the all-time high level. So that's basically what I'll be watching, is to look for some sort of pullback, either come directly on Monday session down to the, dip below the 620 and get into the 616, 613 area here to the low range and see could we get a bounce. Or if it continue to push up, then look for that, 635 area for potential resistance here, this 141 extension on this symmetry move. And here looking at the NQ, the E-mini Nasdaq 100 future, you see last week it came up and closed right near the upper range of the expected move here. So, and also it built a little bit of a low volume zone right near the all-time high. So for the coming week, the market is actually pricing in a level up at this 23,360 and 23,302. That's the upper range, and the lower range is between 22,511.5 and 22,340. So we basically are looking at the possibility of coming up to this upper range or pulling back to this 22,500 area. Now, I also have a major move extension here, so we could do a little bit of a major move of this symmetry move, and you can see that the 127 extension sitting right up here at this upper range level for the weekly expected move. Now, in addition to that, we also have the July monthly expected move. The upper range is between 23,950 and 23,783 and a quarter. And the lower range for the monthly expected move is down at the 22,030 and a quarter and 21,600. So again, basically we're looking for some sort of a pullback, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it pump up to another new high before we pull back. And I will be watching for this 22,500 area for potential support if it decides to pull back in the coming week. Finally, for the QQQ, as you can see for the Q, the market is pricing in for the coming week. The upper range at 567.5 and 565.70, and the low range is between 546.70 and 543. In addition to that, I also got this symmetry move here that I have a projection on, and here you can see that it is in confluence with the 141, this upper range, and here's the 127. So once again, I'll be looking for the possibility of maybe a push up to this 560.95 and even possibly come up to this 565, then pull back into this 546 area, this lower range, to see would it be able to find some support and then push up to another new all-time high. Here is the July expected move. So you can see the July expected move is down here at the lower range between 535 and 526.67, and the upper range is 582 and 577.70. So if it breaks this lower range, then we could see it come down to fill this gap, and that will push us down into this 530 area. In addition to that, let's go and take a look at our composite volume profile here. And let me update this here to include the latest prices. And we can see some of these low volume zone. So now you can see this it was a low volume. Now this is a high volume area. So here is this low volume area. In addition to that, we also could see that there is this low volume zone here. Let me put this one up here, and we get this right up here. Over here, we see a low volume zone near the all-time high. So first is for the price to break through this low volume zone, come down to this, lower weekly expected move to see what we get a bounce back up. If it doesn't, then we're basically looking forward to continue to move down to this 535 to the monthly lower range and possibly get into this here, this high volume area. Let me kind of expand that so we see that there is this high volume area, balance area here, and that is right in confluence with the lower range of the expected move. So those are possible price scenario for the coming week on a little bit higher time frame. Thank you for watching. If you like the content, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel, click the subscribe icon to subscribe and help support this channel. Now, for more content from me, go visit my newsletter at smtraderCA.substack.com. You will find trade ideas, daily trade plans, weekly market review and analysis, trading tutorial and strategies, and much more in my newsletter, The Pulse of the Market. And the link is smtraderCA.substack.com.